Hi, and welcome to Daily English Hub. In today's video, we're going to help you improve your English listening skills through storytelling. Listening to stories is one of the best ways to learn new words, understand sentence structure, and improve your overall fluency. As you listen, try to focus on the pronunciation and intonation of the words. Don't worry if you don't understand everything right away. The more you listen, the better your understanding will become. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. Let's begin.
Sarah had always dreamed of starting a new life in a different city. She lived in a small town with her parents and worked at a local store. Even though she liked her peaceful life, she often thought about moving to a big city, finding a new job, and meeting new people. One day, Sarah decided to make her dream come true. She saved up money for months and finally bought a one-way train ticket to the city. She packed her bags, said goodbye to her family, and set off on her new adventure. It was a bit scary at first, but she knew this was her chance to explore something new. When Sarah arrived in the city, everything seemed big and fast. Tall buildings, busy streets, and so many people rushing around. It was different from her small town, but she loved the energy. She found a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood and quickly settled in. The first thing Sarah needed to do was find a job. She walked around the city, visiting stores, restaurants, and offices, handing out her resume. Days passed, and there was no response, but Sarah didn't give up. She kept searching and practicing her interview skills in front of the mirror. One day, Sarah got a call from a cafe downtown. They were looking for someone to help as a server, and they invited her for an interview. Excited, Sarah put on her best outfit and went to the interview. She was nervous, but she remembered all the practice she had done. She greeted the manager with a smile and answered the questions confidently. A few days later, she received good news: she got the job. Sarah was thrilled. She started working at the cafe, serving coffee and talking to customers. Every day, she met new people from all over the world. Slowly, her confidence grew, and she became more comfortable living in the city. Sarah's days were busy, but she made time for herself. On weekends, she explored different parts of the city. She visited museums, parks, and tried new restaurants. She even made a few friends who shared her love for adventure. They would often go on long walks, discovering hidden gems in the city. Months passed, and Sarah realized how much she had grown. She was no longer the shy girl from the small town. She was now confident, independent, and enjoying her life in the city. Her job at the cafe taught her valuable skills, and she was proud of how far she had come. One evening, Sarah sat on a bench in the park, watching the sunset. She thought about her journey and how much her life had changed. Moving to the city wasn't easy, but it was worth it. She had faced challenges, but she never gave up. Sarah smiled to herself, knowing that this was just the beginning of her new life. David's unexpected journey. David was a young man who lived a simple life in a small coastal town. He worked as a fisherman, just like his father and grandfather before him. Every morning, David would wake up before sunrise, sail out into the ocean, and spend hours catching fish. Life was peaceful, and David was content, but deep down, he longed for something more. He dreamed of exploring the world beyond his little town. One day, while David was out on his boat, a strong storm suddenly appeared. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the waves grew taller and stronger. David tried to steer his boat back to shore, but the storm was too powerful. Before he knew it, the waves had pushed him far out into the open ocean. He was lost. For hours, David fought the storm, holding onto his boat tightly. Eventually, the storm passed, and the sea became calm again. But when David looked around, he realized he was in the middle of the ocean with no land in sight. He was far away from home, and he didn't know which direction to go. David had no choice but to keep sailing. Days went by, and he survived by catching fish and drinking rainwater. He was tired, but he refused to give up. He believed that if he kept going, he would eventually find land. One morning, as the sun rose, David saw something in the distance. It looked like an island. He quickly sailed towards it, full of hope. As he got closer, he saw the island was covered with trees and plants, and it had a long sandy beach. David was so happy to have found land. He jumped off his boat and ran onto the beach, feeling the sand beneath his feet. David spent the next few days exploring the island. It was beautiful and peaceful, but there were no other people. He built a small shelter from wood and leaves and started living on the island. Every day, he would catch fish, gather fruits from the trees, and explore the island more. As the weeks went by, David learned many new skills. He built a stronger shelter, made tools, and even discovered fresh water on the island. He had become stronger and more independent than ever before. But even though he was safe and comfortable, David still missed his home. One evening, while sitting on the beach, David noticed something on the horizon. It was a ship. He jumped up and waved his arms, hoping the ship would see him. As the ship came closer, David's heart raced. Finally, the ship stopped near the island, and sailors came to the shore. The captain of the ship listened to David's story and offered to take him back to his hometown. David was excited but also a little sad to leave the island that had become his temporary home. He packed his things, said goodbye to the island, and boarded the ship. After a few days of sailing, David finally returned to his small town. His family and friends were overjoyed to see him safe. David told them about his incredible journey, the island, and how he survived alone for weeks. His story amazed everyone. Although David was happy to be home, he knew that his adventure had changed him. He was no longer just a fisherman. He had learned to face challenges and survive on his own. He realized that the world was full of possibilities, and his journey had only just begun. David had no choice but to keep sailing. Days went by, and he survived by catching fish and drinking rainwater. He was tired, but he refused to give up. He believed that if he kept going, he would eventually find land. David continued to fish, but he also started planning new adventures. He knew there was so much more to explore, and this time, he was ready for whatever the world had in store. The captain of the ship listened to David's story and offered to take him back to his hometown. David was excited but also a little sad to leave the island that had become his temporary home. He packed his things, said goodbye to the island, and boarded the ship. After a few days of sailing, David finally returned to his small town. His family and friends were overjoyed to see him safe. David told them about his incredible journey, the island, and how he survived alone for weeks. His story amazed everyone. This long story gives learners more practice with basic sentence structures, while providing an exciting narrative about adventure, survival, and personal growth. It's perfect for improving listening skills and building vocabulary around everyday situations and challenges. The captain of the ship listened to David's story and offered to take him back to his hometown. David was excited but also a little sad to leave the island that had become his temporary home. He packed his things, said goodbye to the island, and boarded the ship. After a few days of sailing, David finally returned to his small town. His family and friends were overjoyed to see him safe. David told them about his incredible journey, the island, and how he survived alone for weeks. His story amazed everyone.
That's it for today's listening practice. I hope you found this lesson helpful in improving your spoken English skills. Remember, the more you listen, the better you will speak. Don't worry if it feels slow at first. Keep practicing and you'll see progress. Make sure to practice these sentences and try speaking them out loud. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm here to help you on your English learning journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more lessons. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and happy learning.